Wouldn't it be great to live in the world of Star Wars? Oh sure, you might have to deal with random incursions on your home planet by jerks in fancy helmets. You might run afoul of some rough-and-tumble characters at your local cantina, or you might be one of those characters and end up getting your arm sliced off by an old British dude with a lightsaber. All kinds of crazy things might happen in that world, but hey, crazy things happen in our real world too. It'd be mostly a hoot, unless of course you end up working for the Empire. If you think your boss is always on your back or intrudes too heavily upon your privacy, just wait until you hear about the working conditions of your average Imperial Stormtrooper, and in particular what really goes on inside those helmets. Before we get into all of that though, we should get this out of the way. Not just anybody can fill out an application, undergo a background check, and put on that iconic white armor, all set for their first day of trying and failing to shoot rebel soldiers. In the early days of the Empire, Stormtroopers were recruited exclusively from the ranks of the clones being produced on the planet Kamino, an operation that was once overseen by the deadly mercenary Jango Fett. This is why, in many of their cinematic appearances, Stormtroopers all sound the same, are all the same height, and are all left-handed. As time went on and the cloning operation was eventually shuttered, the Empire began to recruit Stormtroopers from its human population, but they had to be rigorously tested for absolute loyalty. They also presumably had to demonstrate with their blaster rifles that they couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. Once they were deemed compliant and loyal, Stormtroopers were totally trusted to carry out their orders and faithfully represent the Empire without supervision. Or, scratch that, that's a lie. Actually, it was kind of the exact opposite of that. Stormtroopers were required to stay in uniform basically at all times while they were on duty, which isn't fun, but also isn't the bad part. While they were putting in the work for their hard-earned credits, they were also being watched. In each Stormtrooper's helmet was a comm device which broadcast everything that they said all the time to the Empire, where it was monitored and recorded. It was basically like being the target of a super high-tech surveillance program, broadcasting from your face and always listening. These guys were getting eavesdropped on by the boss every minute of every shift. This served two main purposes: ensuring they remained productive and squelching potentially rebellious speech. Now, to be sure, Stormtroopers' armor and helmets had some pretty sweet features as well. They were designed to dissipate energy, and the helmets provided filtered air and an awesome heads-up display, which compensated for their limited field of vision, but apparently did nothing to help them fire their blasters more accurately. The fact that the Stormtrooper's speech was constantly monitored raises an interesting certainty. There were millions of those guys, and somebody had to be doing all of the monitoring. Perhaps this was done by specially programmed droids, but we like to think that somewhere on some planets was what basically amounted to the biggest call center you've ever seen, with cubicles stretching as far as the eye can see. In each cubicle sat a loyal but underpaid minion of the Empire, grinding through the daily slog of poring over the audio records of whatever Stormtrooper they'd been assigned to. In the break room, they would boast to their coworkers about how loyal and professional their guy was. They'd make excuses for his poor marksmanship, whispering under their breath that those heads-up displays were made by some shady manufacturer on the Outer Rim. And when their guy inevitably got blasted into oblivion or carved up by a Jedi Knight, they'd be allowed to take 5 and solemnly reflect on his sacrifice while listening to the Imperial March. Maybe living in the world of Star Wars wouldn't be so awesome after all.